Hey guys, this is Clay from AffordableLoops.com, and today we're going to show you how to create an instrumentation track using Garageband when you play in Ableton Live. This is what the finished product would look like. This is a loop that I created for the song Worth It All by Vertical Church Band, and you can hear what it sounds like here with two instrumentation tracks, piano and strings.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
So that's what the file will look like when we're done. We would start with one of the practice loops that we've created. I'm going to do the original one in the original key of A. And so you'd start out with a practice loop that you've already created, and I'm not going to get into how to do that. If you want to see how to create a loop with a click and a guide based on the original song, you can check out our video on YouTube, how to lay out a practice loop. But this one's already been set up. It's got the click track 7444. It's got the guide that I've put in here, and I've also placed in here the original song so that I can lay the song out. So I've already got the song laid out with the intro, the verse, the chorus, all the different parts of the song are identified, and it makes it easier to create the loop. Now I'm going to create the loop in GarageBand. This is one that I've already finished up, but I'm going to show you how I do it going through the different parts. I would essentially start with a new GarageBand project, so I would go to GarageBand and do a new keyboard collection. So the first thing I will do is I'm going to put a couple of instruments in. In this particular loop, I'm going to go with a piano, and I particularly like the Bolt Trockman piano for this song. It's got the closest sound I believe in. Now you're not going to find the Bolt Trockman piano in your GarageBand. Actually, I've pulled that from a website called Sound Font Library. It's at hammersound.net, and there are literally hundreds of sound fonts you can download. There's other places you can get them, but that's where I got this particular instrument. You also might notice that my desktop kind of flips back and forth really easily, and that's just a little utility that I use called Total Spaces. You can pick it up for about 20 bucks off. It's not on the App Store, but you just have to Google Total Spaces. It's a great app. It allows you to set your Mac up where you've got multiple desktops that are really easily navigatable. Anyway, that's just my tip for the day. So I've got the piano piece I'm going to lay in here, and also I want a set of strings. So I'm going to go ahead and add another instrument, my strings. And it's going to be the orchestra strings. Okay, so here are the two instruments that I've laid in. So now that and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my beats per minute is set to the right. So this is a tempo of 74 at 4/4. So I'll double click on the beats per minute, set it for 74. The key is going to be in A, and then the signature is 4/4. So I would go ahead and just save this file, and typically I would put it into the folder that I have that particular loop in, which is With It All, and I'll typically create a separate folder for my GarageBand tracks. Now I've already got a file set up for that, so I'm just going to open that file up. Okay, so once I've got my GarageBand file set up for 74 beats per minute, I've got the key that I'm doing, the signature. I'm going to start laying in some of the instrumentation. I do these one at a time, and the first one I did was the piano, and if I just listen to the original, I'll listen to what the piano does, and I'll just come over here and turn on my metronome, set the piano, get ready to record it. Now I'm going to turn these two off so that I'm not hearing that And now I'm going to record that piano part. Okay, so I got that piece recorded, and you can see obviously I'm not a great piano player. I'm actually a guitar player, but I can kind of pick out the notes, and here's kind of what the first. And so the great thing about Garageband is I can get rid of notes that I don't like. I can select it, quantize them to the 16th notes, and let's see how that sounds. Okay, that's not too bad. Pretty close. All right, so now I've already recorded all these pieces. I've gone through the entire song, and this is kind of where the layout that we created in Ableton Live really helps out, because I know what measure the intro starts on. I know what measure the verse starts on, where the chorus. So essentially, I will go in here and play each of the different parts. Here's the piano part that let me get rid of that. The piano part that I played, starting on. And the neat thing about this is, once I've got that little piece put in there, it repeats twice. So all I have to do is just select it, copy it, and then just paste it into the right slot. And I'll do that. I'll go through the verse, and I've picked out all the different verse piano parts. And again, this verse, if you'll notice, these two measures pretty much repeat themselves throughout the verse until you get right to the end of the verse where it transitions into the chorus. So I can just copy those two measures and paste them throughout the verse until I've got the first verse completed. And once I've got the entire first verse completed, I know that the second verse picks up in measure 27. So I can take that verse, I can copy it, and go to measure 27 and just paste it right there. And that makes it really easy to fill out the entire song. Once I've got the chorus, I can copy that and put the chorus in here on verse 37. And it's easy to just do a shift in and label each of these segments. Right around verse 45, measure 45, there is a turnaround if you listen to it. So when I got to 45, I played the chords through that. Very easy. And again, that just repeats twice, so I just copied that and pasted it in. When we get to the bridge part, played through that. One of the things I also do is, if you copy and paste, you're essentially copying the exact key along with the exact velocity of the notes. And sometimes things will build a little bit, so this bridge builds. So what I've done is gone through the bridge as it builds, and I've increased the velocity of those notes to sort of build it up. And this section of the bridge, the velocity is 41, and then in this section, I've increased it to 63. And same thing with you get into the chorus that's at measure 69. That chorus is a bit stronger than the earlier chorus, so I've increased the velocity. I use the same piano notes and the same chords, but I've increased the velocity. So I'll do that with each of the instruments. I've done it with the piano, and then I've also gone through and just added the string parts where they come in. Okay, so once I've got my song completely laid out, and I've gone through it and listened to all the different parts, and it always is a good thing to go back and check all of your measures to make sure that all of your bridges and your turnarounds and your choruses and everything, make sure they start and end on the correct measure. At the end of the song, depending on how the song ends, this one tends to have a long decay at the end of the song. So I just took those couple of notes there with the pianos and the strings and gave it a good solid key, and I just held it out for a couple of measures. And I'll go back and Ableton Live, and I'll trim those out and put the fades into them. So once I've got the song, everything laid out that I want, I'm ready to export these files. Now, one of the things that I do is I don't necessarily export it as one unit. If I were to export this file the way it is right now, both instruments would be combined into the file, and then if I wanted to make adjustments to individual instruments, I wouldn't have that option. So what I'll do is, once I've got the file the way I want it, I've got the song the way I want it, I will do a save as and save them as individual instruments. So I'll just do a file save as, and the original file has all the keys, but then I'll just change that and call it a piano file, save it. So now it's got Worth It All, a piano. And I'll do the same thing and change piano to strings. Okay. Now the strings file, I'm going to get rid of the piano, save it, and if I were to open the piano file, I'm going to get rid of the strings. So now I've got a piano file and a string file, and they're separate instruments. The last thing I'll do before I import it is, you'll notice that this song starts the intro on measure 3, and that's simply a personal preference. The way I create the loops that our band uses, I'll usually do a 4-count lead in, then the intro count in, and then the actual intro starts. So you got 2 measures before the song actually starts, and that's why this particular one starts at the beginning. So if I were to export it the way it is right now, the file would start at measure 3. I'll typically just pull this out to start at measure 1. And then that way when I export it, it'll drop right into Ableton Live. I don't have to move the clip around. So once I've done that, I'm ready to export the file. So I'll hit Share, export it to disk. When I'm using, creating instrumentation tracks, I will save them as AIFF format in 24-bit. They end up being somewhere between 70 and 100 megabytes each, but it's a higher quality. I'm going to save these, instead of putting them into the folder that I created for my Garageband tracks. I'm going to put it into my Ableton Live project file in samples, in imported. You'll notice I've already got a few in there. And how you name it's your personal preference. I have a naming convention that I use. I just put the song name, the key, and then what instrument it is. And I'll go ahead and export that. Okay, I'll do the same with my strings. Okay, now that I've exported both of my audio files, I'm going to go back to my Ableton project. I'm going to need to add a couple of audio tracks in. Then I'll open it up and go to my current project, look in my imported. There's my piano file. Drop that in. And drop my string file in. Okay, once I've got the files dropped in, I'm going to go through and I'm going to listen to each of the segments just to make sure that they're all in the right spot. So if you go through and listen to each section, that just confirms that everything's in the right place. You didn't make any mistakes. Now, right now these are raw files, probably not quite ready for prime time. So the few of the things that I'll do once I've got them in is I'll master them a little bit. One thing I'll do is I'll put some effects, perhaps some reverb into them. I like to use, one of the ones I like to use is compressed room reverb, so I'll drop that into the piano and you can kind of listen to what it'll sound like. It's got a bit better of a sound, so I'll drop some reverb into each one of these, give them a little bit more space. And then you may want to go in and do some mixing as far as setting the levels. Maybe you want the strings to be a little lower in the mix. And obviously at the end, I'll usually put, I'll fade them out, so I'll come to the very end of it and just put a fade into it. Okay. And last thing is I'm going to pan it. The way we run our loops is that we pan the click and the guide to the left, and then the tracks instrumentation goes to the right, which goes to the house. I'll label these clips piano, strings. Okay, so once you've done that, you've got your loop, you're ready to go. You should be ready for prime time on Sunday morning.
Intro, 2, 3, 4. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
So don't forget to check us out at affordableloops.com. We have free resources. You can download click tracks and guide clips and different things that we have. And so that's it. You're good to go. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.